why do people? Yeah, why do people commit crimes? Because people are us as people are naturally violent. How to treat criminals? He suggests that we. The second one.
We should rehabilitate them.
Rehabilitate them. Argument against retribution philosophy of punishment doesn't address the source or the cause of the root problem of the crime.
So we need to isolate it and address it.
So yes, we need to isolate it and address it.
Yeah, so notice the key for Menninger is he wants to make utilitarian arguments. So when he says, why do people commit crimes? He says, look, all of us are violent, but for only some of us does that violent nature lead to crime. If we really cared about creating better consequences, we wouldn't just punish people for committing crimes. We try to figure out the exact reasons, and then we'd adopt strategies to address that before it actually leads to crime. So counseling, changing social structures after crime is committed, maybe focus on rehabilitation, whatever that might be. If we're really utilitarians, that's what we ought to care about. So that affects how we ought to treat criminals. He doesn't think that punishment works to deter crime or to prevent it from happening, so we need a more effective strategy that goes after the root causes. And that's basically his argument against the retributive philosophy of punishment. It's not just about punishing people so we feel better after punishing, so we feel like justice has been done. It's about doing something that actually can lead to the reduction of crime and therefore the better consequences.
Okay, for Grant, the utilitarian theory of punishment is basically looking at the consequences rather than the act, and basing it on a mathematical approach, the utilitarian way, you know what I mean? And the three basic principles upon which theory is based is deterrence factor, which is punishing people deters some people from doing the crime, improving character, and preventing crimes during periods of incarceration. And those are the basic principles.
Yeah, because when people
What was
are
the last one?
preventing crimes, because people that committed the crimes are incarcerated, so that less people couldn't commit crimes. I guess.
Yeah, basically, yeah, if you're a utilitarian and you think that punishment leads to better consequences, he says it's going to be for one of those three reasons. Either it deters crime, it improves character, or it prevents people from committing crimes when they're in prison. He thinks all three of them are true,
Yeah.
which is why he adopts a utilitarian defense of punishment.
Okay, for Lewis, the argument against utilitarian theory. Do you want to take it?
Wait, what was the objection to theory? Part 3.
Oh yeah, it doesn't address the problem. It basically, because punishment needs to be tied to what people deserve, not to the consequences of the society effective. Is that right?
Yeah, notice these are not objections that Grant has. He just, in his article, he lists possible objections and then deals with them.
And that it doesn't address the problem.
The primary objection he addresses is that it doesn't actually deter crime. He thinks that it does, but an objection to his theory would basically be to take any of his points and challenge whether they actually work. Does it actually deter crime? Does punishing actually improve character? Does it prevent future crime?
Is there any way you could put your notes online for us?
My notes online?
Yeah, because your notes are so
Is there a way you could just give us an A on the final?
Just for being there?
Yeah.
Just for being here, right?
Just for taking the class?
Well, that would be a highly unethical.
Just for being here?
Program markets.
But like we were talking about
He's not going to say anything. He's not going to say anything when everyone's recording him right now.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's like Barack Obama. Everybody's like,
Okay, Lewis, argument against utilitarian theory. That was it. People that It should be based on desert opposed to consequences, right?
Based on what one deserves rather than the consequences to society.
Yeah. It's based on what the crime should, I guess, morally deserve opposed to the consequence.
Yeah, his fear is that if you punish people based on creating the best consequences, then you're not treating these people as real human beings. That you could get a case where, you know, cutting someone's hand off for shoplifting might lead to better consequences for society. But that doesn't mean the person who shoplifts deserves to have a handcuff. He's worried that once you do that, you disconnect the idea of desert from the punishment, and then you're just using that person as a means to scare people away from committing a crime or something. So he thinks that punishment, if you really respect the person as a you know, an agent that has dignity and rights, you should only give the kind of punishment that the crime deserves. And he is afraid that any utilitarian theory of punishment doesn't do that.
Yeah, and yeah, the last one is basically what you said. The defense of humanitarian theory of punishment is basically looking at the person and the crime they committed and then figuring out what crime they deserve, you know, rather than, you know, taking the utilitarian approach to basing it on consequences.
I was kind of confused on one, because isn't that like the same thing that we just said for the first one?
Yeah,
Based on desert opposed to consequences?
yeah, he goes a little bit farther and says that on a Kantian moral theory, you can actually justify punishment because he wants to make the further argument that he defends Kant, where Kant says that really the only way you can respect the rationality of someone who commits a crime is by punishing them. That basically you take their rule that they acted on and you universalize it for them, and then you just apply it to them. So he wants to even go a step further there and say, if you don't punish a criminal, you're actually not respecting them as human beings. Interesting. That's basically the Kantian justification of punishment.
We never went over two costs.
Right, so cross that out. I wrote this before I actually wrote this before last week, so I intended to get that far. So yeah, you can take pin costs out of there. All right, thank you.
You don't need to worry about them.
Or well, nothing we on the test either. Yeah. Yes, so we got